Welcome to the Geek Easy, fellow geeks. Let's open a beverage of your choice, because today's Tuesday, and that means another episode of Terrible Tuesdays. Seems like I've been doing things wrong for a while, in which I review a movie from the collection of movies that was left to me by my father. Gone over this before, and this week it is Spooks Run Wild, starring Bela Lugosi and the East Side Kids. I think it's 1939, I think. It doesn't quite say on here, but if I read the numbers correctly, it was 1939. Let me give you a brief synopsis they have on here. It says, a goofy gang, the East Side Kids, spends the night at a creepy mansion and encounters its owner, Lugosi, who remarkably resembles Count Dracula. Okay. That doesn't really give much of what's into the plot. Okay, so you have these, the East Side, the East Side Kids. They are supposedly a group of juvenile delinquents. And of course, teenagers, right? But the actors who play them are about as believable as teenagers, or even more believable as teenagers, than, say, the people who were in 90210, as they were for teenagers. They were a little old. Okay, so they're delinquents, they get caught, and they get sent to this, like, summer camp for juvenile delinquents. And on their way there, they go to this little deli where they run across this really hot girl, and then they want to sneak out to meet her for a date and all that. And also, there is a like a killer who's, making the way towards this small town. You hear about it on the radio, and he's killed these people and taken the blood and all that. And so you have Bela Lugosi showing up in this car with a little dwarf. They're carrying about like 3 coffins and all that, and they're looking for this mansion that they're going. And so people think that this guy is the killer. And so when the gang gets to this camp, they sneak out at night to go try and meet this girl. One of them gets hurt, and they wind up at this mansion, and where Bela Lugosi and this dwarf are. And Bela Lugosi is dressed in a tuxedo, and he's talking like he did in Dracula, and there's a guy who's coming to try and stop them, and they're reading a book about the creature that he's supposed to be, and it's basically a vampire, but they don't quite say it. And all sorts of weird stuff ensues. This is kind of a comedy. It's basically Abbott and Costello meet the werewolf, kind of, or like a Three Stooges type thing. Not really scary. I mean, not scary at all, but just, kind of, farcical scary. I don't, you know, I really don't think this is supposed to be a horror at all. I don't, you know, it says heroes of horror. This isn't really horror. I mean, it's them kind of making fun of horror, and you know, there are movies that do that and do that well, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil and stuff like that, which, you know, is a really good movie. This isn't one of them. This is just, it's basically a kind of a slapstick comedy attempt at a slapstick comedy horror. More comedy than horror. There's just hints of it, of horror. But it does have some really kind of funny lines in it. Like one of them is they're in the kind of the bay where they do the, you know, bunking up, and the lights are out. And the guy's like got a book open. He's reading it. He says, "How could you read at night?" And he says, "I would." How can you read in the dark? And he says, "I went to night school," which, okay, funny line, but it's stuff like that. I mean, it falls more onto that than horror. And if you know, you enjoy that type of stuff, and there is a time and place for that, then this is a really good movie. But put into a collection like this, I mean, he was, you know, he was actually dressed sort of like this. I personally don't think it should be on a collection like this because it's not horror. And if you see some of the older horror movies, like from like the 30s and stuff like that, it's in black and white, and when in the dark, you know, there's certain dark parts you really can't see shit, and then there's other times it's supposed to be dark when it's bright as day, but it's like, hey, isn't it nighttime? So there was just all sorts of stuff going on here that just, it was kind of entertaining if you're, you know, allowing for that type of stuff to being entertaining. If that's what you're looking for and you're expecting that, then great, it'll be good. But I wasn't, you know, I was kind of expecting a horror thing, and it just wasn't. So I'm just gonna give it a 1.75 out of 5, and just say no. Not as a horror movie. Can't do it. If it was for something else, if I was going to go for a kind of a slapstick, you know, Abbott Costello versus Frankenstein or the werewolf, you know, or whatever, then great, this would be a really good one. But it wasn't what I was expecting, or I felt as advertised. So, you know what I mean? Maybe it could just be, maybe I'm just being too harsh, but yeah, so 1.75 out of 5, and can't recommend it as a horror movie. But anyway, let me know if you've seen it, what you thought of it, and like, subscribe, possibly share, and most of all, enjoy your horror movies.